Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
All right, cool. We are back with Larry Tolbert. Larry is has been a client of NBS Fitness for how long now?
About 2.5 years.
Very cool. And Larry is a financial advisor. He's been in the financial business for a long time. He's well respected in the Memphis area and around the country. And
David, you throw that around like it means something or like it's true.
Well, you're successful in your realm of work. And so that's something that we want to note and specifically today kind of talk about how that relates to the success that you've had here as well. Give us a little bit of background on yourself and kind of your fitness story.
When I was in high school, I was a little bit of an athlete. I played tennis. I raced motocross. Got beat up really bad as a result. Have lots of scars from that.
Yeah.
Have still lingering issues from a couple of back. I continued to ride motorcycles. I still have 2 in the garage. And so I have a lot of that carry forward.
Yeah.
That I've worked out. When I went to work after college, work and career building was the focus.
Yeah.
Right. So that took precedent for 30 years. So now I come back to you.
Yeah.
Because your father and I are good friends, and he finally got me to come over here. And now I find myself in a catch-up game. I'm not building off of a good platform. So I think I told you one time that the first year I was here felt more like rehab than exercise.
Right.
Yeah. Brandon Riley, my trainer, had to get me to the point where I could start lifting weights.
Yeah.
And that took a year.
Yeah.
I really didn't fully understand how deep my neglect had gone.
Well, because you weren't exposed to it on a daily basis.
No, I had no reason. I wasn't sore. I didn't feel bad. And then 2005 came at Christmas, and I had 2 heart attacks and a quadruple bypass. And that will get your attention.
100%.
Yes. So every day when I'm in the shower, my surgeon said, if you need motivation, simply look down.
And what year was that?
2005.
Okay. Well, so what happened between 2005 and 2019?
My wife passed away in 2009. I was the sole caregiver for her for 10 years, and that took a lot of time and attention, right? So it was all about her. My surgeon didn't really know a lot about motivating people because looking down and seeing my scar on a daily basis didn't motivate me. So I had a coronary stent put in.
Yeah.
And then I was diagnosed as type 2 diabetic, and I was dragging around about 60 extra pounds.
Right.
I was simply living, waiting to die. My rate of death was accelerating. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know it. Right. Because I thought I was still 30 years old and relatively bulletproof.
Yeah.
All right. So I can't tell you what epiphany hit me. It's just that at some point in time, probably about the time my current doctor, Dr. David Wright, said that, Larry, I've done everything I can do for you. Nutrition and pharmacy can only get you so far. If you don't get in the gym, you will continue to decelerate your life. And I think that was the epiphany that I had. And it was probably within that week you and I were talking.
Yeah. Did he use those words, decelerate your life?
He didn't. He's a little bit more gentle than I would have been. But yes, he did say that he had gotten me as far as I could get. Yeah. And when Dr. Wright tells you that, you listen.
Yeah. I'm going to decelerate your life is a really great, it's pretty accurate way of describing it.
It hit home.
Yeah.
That phrase. That's exactly what it feels like. Is you're coming. It's like you're coming off the expressway of life, getting on the exit, ready to die.
Yeah.
And then you go to God's parking lot, and I'm very thankful I had to move to Florida because that's what that is God's parking lot. I lived down in Miami for 9 years, and I can attest they're just waiting to die.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a great day for me. I don't believe in motivation because motivation is a short-term thing. You can't scare somebody into coming to the gym by telling them that they're losing their health or their mobility. That is a short-term thing. So on days where I where I lack it's like the best part about coming to the gym is leaving. You've done a good workout,
Yeah.
right? It's time to go home, relax.
Yeah.
So I just remind myself consistently that I made a commitment. And when I go back to the commitment, I come in.
Yeah.
Right? Motivation, being scared, blah, 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 doesn't work anymore. So I made a commitment.
That's awesome. And I want to kind of continue to talk about that a little bit more. But one thing I wanted to talk about, when so many people, and you're further in life than I am, and so I'd like to kind of get perspective.
That's a polite way to say I'm older than you, David.
Complimentary. But I like to kind of get the perspective from people who have more life experience, obviously. But the average American starts, we are born physically active. Like, if you've ever been around kids, they're running around, they're jumping and playing. A lot of kids, most kids, are involved in some activities in middle school and some activities in high school. And then they go to college and they come out, and it's kind of an abrupt stop. Like when the career starts, everything else gets put on the back burner. And so, and I think that's part of being a materially driven society, and kind of what that's promoted within our society. I think that is kind of somewhat expected, but my question is, like, having that insight now and that reflection, like, what would you say to that 25-year-old who's like, you know what, I got to put in the hours now. I've got to do the work now. Like, I'll get to it eventually, but I got to wait till I get that next promotion, or I'm putting in 50 hours a week. I don't have time. I'm not going to wake up early. If I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to go work. Like, what would you say to that person starting their career who doesn't have these habits established, who's continuing to put it off? Like, what would your recommendation be to them? What would you say to them, like, having that reflection?
It's much like I tell clients of clients. I have the privilege of having clients' children as clients, and now I'm starting to get their grandchildren as clients. So it's very much like telling them. The advice I give them is start saving early.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit, start saving early, because compounding is the 11th wonder of the world.
Right.
And you've got a long time to compound. So if I were to give the knowledge that I have now about my health and my training regimen to the 25-year-old me, I would have said, do something every week, even if it's very little something, so that you can maintain your mobility. I was at the physical therapist this morning, and I've been 4 or 5 times, and I asked her if she had enough time with me to give me sort of a general diagnosis. And she said, your nervous system hasn't caught up to where you are with your muscles and your tendons. Larry, you don't have the nervous system of an athlete. It has to be developed.
Yeah.
Right. So if I would have known that at 25, I would have done at least something to keep my the nervous system of an athlete. Even if I was an athlete, not in training, just a casual athlete. So that way I wouldn't have had to pay such a great price for it now.
Yeah. It's kind of like, just like investing. It is better to continue to put a little bit in for a long period of time than to try to play catch up over a short period of time where you're having to put a ton in.
Yeah. And I would like for you to tell the definition, because I hear this all the time, right, from my peer group. Well, I work in the garden, I do stuff, and I used to believe in that too.
Yeah.
Right. So tell everybody the difference between exercise and movement.
Yeah, activity.
And activity.
Yeah, so I've heard the same thing. Obviously, when people say, well, I do exercise, and then they use activity in place of exercise. And so the way I describe it to people is that activity is doing things that are currently well within your capabilities. It's not pushing your limits. It's not pushing your physical limits at all. It's just expressing your current fitness capabilities in non-stressful ways. So you can currently garden, and so you garden. It doesn't push you. It doesn't cause you to strain at all, but you're just doing things you currently have the capability of doing. Fitness is pushing, or exercise is pushing yourself, doing things that are at the edges of your current capabilities in order to cause your body to adapt, to gain more fitness, more abilities, right? And so exercise is training and causing your body to make progress forward and to very much resist deceleration.
Yes.
And activity is just doing things you're currently capable of. And that's the way I kind of describe it to people who have the sense, well, I'm active. It's like, being active is better than not being active. Absolutely. Going back to investment terms, being active is not spending all your money and not saving anything, right?
Right.
So that would be better than going into debt.
Yes. So,
but it's not investing. It's not moving forward.
right. So in my world, people in their 40s are active.
Yeah.
But they probably participate in their company's 401k plan.
Yeah.
Thank God. But that's not necessarily going to prepare them fully for a retirement lifestyle that they want.
Right.
Right. So to go back to your point, we're born active. We're born healthy generally.
Yeah.
All right. So why can't we stay that way? After kindergarten, when we learn to read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, we have everything we need to be wealthy. So why aren't we? People in their 40s are active, but they're not exercising their wealth capabilities. Their focus is solely on child rearing.
Yep.
I learned a long time ago that I was not going to focus on any client in their 40s because you cannot get their attention, right?
Yeah.
Because they hear you, they may intellectually be where you are in your sermon to them, but they're not going to do anything about it, right? So the ability to do something about it is a big part of the psychology of what I do. And I think they're very similar between what you do and what I do. Until you are ready for change, you're not going to get out of motion to go to exercise. That sounds really easy, but until somebody goes, you know what, I'm at the point where I'm going to realize that I need to make a change and I'm going to commit to act on it, they won't. So I frequently ask clients up front, is it time for you to make a change? You don't have to make a big change. You don't have to make all these changes all at once. But if you're not ready to make a change, this is just an academic discussion we're having. Right? Nothing will come from it. You'll feel good, I'll feel good, but that's it. So for me, making the conscious decision that it was time for me to make a change was a linchpin in me being here.
Very cool. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. I most people recognize that they should exercise, but they don't. So
but they don't.
Yeah.
Right.
What is the difference between the trigger of why does it trigger change in some people and not trigger change in all people? That's the question.
What force can you break that turns your butt loose in the couch so that you don't want to die by couch, death by couch?
Yeah.
Right. It's change. And people are resistant to change. And the older we get, the more resistant to change we become, the less likely our bodies are to change as a result of something that we implement. Yeah. I'm struggling with that. I was very successful in having some gains early on, but I'm starting to already see the rate of growth slow.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't want that, but it is inevitable.
Yeah.
And I've graduated from having beginner problems. I remember distinctly when Brandon said, okay, I need you to activate your glutes. And I was like, I smiled and I looked at him and I said, okay, first of all, where are they? And how do I do that? Yeah. Right? Don't make some assumptions that I actually know where my lats and glutes are. Okay. So we've graduated now to having intermediate problems.
Yeah.
This whole nerve thing. So just like in my world, you can start off investing very slowly, very easy. And then as you become accustomed to it, you see the benefits, you'll want to do it more.
Yeah, 100%. I have a joke that I'll say, like, you know how long it takes to look like you've been training for 10 years? And people go, how long?
10 years. I remember you told that joke to me too. Yeah. And I remember that. I tell people that, you know, and I said, this is one thing where you are not going to get the benefits of investing unless you do it. You have to take the risk.
Yeah.
Right. You have to take some risk to get some reward. And there's a risk to come in here. It's called injury.
Well, and resources. It takes time,
it does.
money.
It takes time and money. So I was going to get to that, right? In order to grow your empire, you must commit resources. Same here. When I did commit to doing this, I went and searched for the best team here. Here's your unsolicited plug, David. And I found you, and I said, that's the best I've seen in Memphis. Maybe not the biggest, but you don't have to be big to be best. So, and I really appreciate what I have found here, right? Then I decided, as with investing, even experienced investors must realize that they are not experts in everything, right? So we needed to add team members. You may need to add a different CPA or an estate lawyer or a tax lawyer. So you recognize that you must supplement where you are weak, just like here, right? So I have a great trainer, Brandon Riley. He was a perfect match. Thank you again, David, for that. He's a perfect match for me. And so, but you also know that I have a dietitian. I have a chef. I have a physical therapist that's excellent. And I have probably the best doctor in the country. Yeah. He's a ninja warrior. So he is into physical health himself. Yeah. Right. And he's gifted. So my team has been able to help me with my first goal, which, as you recall, was to reverse my diabetes and all evidence of previous cardiovascular destruction. And we did that. And in November the 20th of 2020, I got the results from Dr. Wright, who said, you're now becoming insulin sensitive.
That's awesome.
So other than when Stephanie and I got married, that's probably the best day I've ever lived as a human adult, to be able to say, I'm no longer diabetic. Yeah. Right.
That's huge. I mean, like, that is huge.
Yeah. So I have literally picked people up and taken them to Dr. Wright to get them to start that course of action, because it's the first pandemic diabetes is a choice. Yeah. Right. It's a choice.
It's the result of lifestyle choices.
It's the result of inactivity and lifestyle. So you can reverse it. I'm happy to show anybody my lab results, but you've seen me. I'm here every day. I put it on my calendar. My staff knows that this is sacred time for me. At work, I call this church. Yeah. And you cannot interrupt my church. Don't schedule around it, right? Because to be the best financial planner I can for my clients requires me to think good, to live a long time, to be healthy, to support them. So I haven't had any pushback from clients yet as to why I'm not available at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well, okay. So obviously we've made these health improvements, reversed type 2 diabetes, reversed a lot of the cardiac impacts over the last several decades. And then what other kind of things have you done? Like, what are you most proud of accomplishing since you've been here? Like,
I took a body scan, right? One of my friends is a plastic surgeon here in town, and he had one of the first in-bodies, right? So he said, come over and try out my new toy. So I did, and I was 26% body fat, and I had 95 pounds of muscle mass. Now, I'm 6'4". He was very good and very kind. And he said, well, Larry, you could probably move this body fat down a little bit, and you have a good start on muscle mass. And then he basically said, you need to get to work.
Yeah. Right? How long ago was that?
That was May of 2018, I think. Okay. Yeah. So it still took me 12 months for that light bulb to go off and go, I got to go do something. But I didn't know how, and I didn't know where. Yeah. So it was at a casual lunch with your dad, who finally basically said, I'm going to come and pick you up if you don't call David. Right. So we have to credit your father with this. Yes. So now I'm 109 pounds of muscle mass. My body fat is 13 to 14. Anytime there is some variability in those in-body scans, but my weight has stayed fairly the same. So body composition has changed.
Yeah.
My waist has gotten smaller. I can't wear the same shirts I used to wear. Chest has gotten bigger. Arms have gotten bigger. Legs have definitely gotten bigger. I'm stronger. I tell people that I feel so good, but I can hardly move. Because I'm sore.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Those are expectations that you have that your team can work through that with you, right? Go get a massage if you're that sore. That'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Or warm up a little bit longer. Older people need more warm up time, I have discovered.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm very proud of the way I look in the mirror. I used to be a big fat slob. I'm working on that. I don't look that way anymore. So there's the aesthetic appeal, right? I know that I've increased my longevity expectations. And I'm not just going to live longer. I'm going to live better.
Bingo. Yeah.
Right. We just had our grandbaby born, so I want to see her do wonderful things. So yeah, I have a long way to go, David, but you've seen me come a long way too.
Yeah. And it's been 2 years, about right?
About 2.5 years.
Yeah. So it's like literally half your body fat. Go from a unhealthy body fat. 26% is an unhealthy body fat for a male. Go from 26 down to 13 to put on muscle mass, to build strength, to go from someone who's unfit and unhealthy and on the way towards death, and to reverse it in 2 years is one. It's a testament to like all your hard work, and it's also should be an example to people that it can be done in 2 years. It literally can be. Now it's hard. It's not easy. There's going to be obstacles that you're going to have to overcome along the way, but you were able to reverse all that in 2 years.
I was amazed. I'm very, very thankful that I have a body that responded, period. That I have a body that responded so quickly and so deeply.
Yeah.
Right. So completely. Now, Dr. Wright has also told me, if you go back to your old ways, you will become a diabetic again.
Yeah.
Right. So the genie is in the bottle. I'll never be able to put the top on it. I can just keep her in there by doing what I'm doing. And so I guess you could call that motivation, or maybe it's just a constant reminder of the commitment I made to keep it in there. Because it's easier to keep the genie in than it is to put it in initially.
Yeah, it's like with momentum, if you've got one big giant stone rolling, it's hard to stop that stone and get it rolling the other way. But once it's rolling the other way,
it's rolling.
It's already got the momentum behind it.
Yeah.
And it's just as equally hard to stop it rolling that way.
Yes.
One thing I'll kind of encourage people as they're in the beginning of their journey is like, look, you're going to get to the point where it's going to be equally as hard for you to stop.
I wouldn't have believed that because of my 226 pounds, 225 and a half of them are lazy. So I have one that's just working its ass off to keep me motivated, right? Yeah. So I got a lot of lazy in me. And, 2 years ago, I kept hearing people say that. Working out becomes addictive. I'm like, right? Yeah. No. But it does.
Yeah.
Walking into your gym was a little bit intimidating the first time.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Because you have some serious athletes in here.
Yeah.
And you have some very committed people. And they're here, they're in their zone, they're doing what they need to be doing, right? And for somebody that hasn't been in a gym in years, then that can be a little intimidating because you see that and you're like, wow, that's I'm never going to get there, right? But I'm also old enough to know I don't really care.
Yeah.
All I'm competing against is the chart on the wall and me.
Yeah.
Right. I want to be the best I can be. And if I feel like I'm too competitive, Brandon is really good about pulling me aside and going, you need to just forget all about that. It's about you. It's not about anything else that's going on around you. Right.
Yeah. There's a good balance of like competitiveness that pushes you to take action, but it also needs to be balanced with the reality and kind of the long-term game plan, you know?
And, you know, those same people that I was intimidated by, once they see your commitment, that you're here when they're here and that you're working really hard, they have actually become very big supporters.
Yeah. Well, most people who exercise and train, like they do it because they like it and they recognize the benefits of it and they want other people to join in, which is one of the reasons why I don't like the idea of gyms that don't cater to or push away experienced lifters or people who are experienced in it, and only want to put people who are beginners together, because you never get to see what the future can hold. You know, you never get to see and go, oh man, I could do that. Like, and you never get a chance to share that experience, because I've been doing this 2.5 decades, and I want to be able to pass that down to people, like people who have been in this for a long time. Like, it's your responsibility to share what you've learned down the road. But it's also, and it's great for those people who are beginners to get to hear from someone who's been doing it for 2 decades. You know, like, I'm in my first week, cool. Like, I'm in my 2nd decade, 3rd decade. There's some awesome knowledge that can be shared right there. And at the same time, being around, I also don't like gyms that only cater to serious people and don't have any beginners, because you never get a chance to kind of look back and go, like, man, like, I was there one day. Everyone's had their first day in the gym. Everyone's had their first week in the gym. Everyone's been into a gym and gone, I'm not the numero uno here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And the other thing that I soon noticed, which I really appreciate, is the family atmosphere you foster here, right? You have kids here. You do kids camps. You're obviously a parent.
Yep.
You guys do a great job. I have, you know, we've bragged on Brandon. Let's kick him around a little bit. Okay. You know, Brandon's in his early 30s, yeah, and he's incredibly physically fit, right, himself. But I'm probably the only client he has that's my age. I'm 60.
Yeah.
Right. So Brandon doesn't know what a 60-year-old joint feels like.
Right.
Right. And he's probably not, although he's learned a lot, but when I started coming in the afternoons, I noticed, hey, there's a lot of faces around here that look like me.
Yeah.
There's a couple of older guys here, you know, and I understand there was 1 or 2 that were in their 90s.
Yeah, we had
Lenny, what's his name?
Lenny, and I'm trying to think of how old Weglicky's granddad was. He was in his 80s or 90s too. Yeah, we had two clients in their 90s.
And I thought, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy. So when people like me come in, they go, that's what commitment looks like.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Lenny was just doing his biking, and, you know, he was kicking it for a 90-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that's awesome. But I've actually had a couple of guys my age, you know, that I've gotten to know.
Yep.
And they've given me some great pointers on, you know, they've been in it longer than I have.
Yep.
But they know what it feels like, right, when your knee just won't move or whatever. And it's not because it's not strong. It's just because it's
60 years old.
It's 60 years old. And
you rode motorbikes.
and I blew them out in motocross racing. Yeah, doing really stupid stuff. So I really appreciated that. I also noticed what a cross section is here, David. You've got people that are in orthopedic devices that come and work out here. You've got every religion, every nationality. You've got strong men. You've got incredibly strong women coming in here. And I've learned stuff from every one of them, right? And when you look around and you see somebody that is less physically able than you, and they're doing something and they're sweating and they're here every day, you're like, well, what's my problem?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What's my excuse?
What's my excuse? So I really wanted to have a T-shirt made that said, you know, something like diabetes is no excuse or something like that.
Yeah.
Or diabetes is optional. So that if somebody saw me in the gym and all they could see was that T-shirt, they would know that it's possible to reverse that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, wherever you're going through, there's someone who's gone through something harder and overcome it. And one of the beauties of the internet is you can find those stories.
Yeah.
If you need that and you want to hear that, like, you can go and find it today. What's the CrossFit IG page that has adaptive athletes? It may be like CrossFit Adaptive, but it's athletes who have some type of special need or some special training, like they may have had an arm amputated or may have a physical deformity or whatever it may be, and it's them still training, competing, and doing things, finding ways to get it done around whatever obstacle they're dealing with, and not using it as an excuse to do nothing.
Yeah, I saw something on my feed the other day. One of the powerlifting association groups has come up with that.
Yeah.
Right, adaptive lifting.
Yeah.
So that you can be in the same area, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've lost a limb in service or whatever, what a great place to come and work out where there are other people. I've also noticed that I expected. When I was working out last pretty seriously, it was in Miami, and there were a lot of people in there that were just there for the vanity of it, right? And so I want to compliment you again. It's a serious place. It's not so serious that you can't have fun, and it's not family, but the vanity element here is not really existent.
Yeah.
Right. It's not non-existent. It's just not here alive. Yeah. So I've always kind of appreciated that because attitude is infectious. I believe that. And when you get around a lot of other serious people, you get serious just from osmosis.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think because we are since we have such a broad spectrum of people, no one's like the best at anything. Like, this one person may be the best squatter, but this person may be the best bencher. And this person may be the best strongman, but this person may be the most lean. This person may have the most muscle, but this person may be the farthest and the fastest. And so and then this person may be doing really great, but they're 22 and don't have a whole lot of responsibilities in life, and they're doing what they should be doing at 22. And then on the flip side, this person's, I'll give a shout out to Rachel, but she's a mother of 4 children. Her husband currently is working back and forth in Arkansas, traveling, and she's a doctor, and she still comes in and trains like 4 days a week. And so, you know, when you see that kind of occurring, you don't have a lot of ground to put your ego on, you know?
Well, and then I'll give you a perfect example of that. Okay. It's your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom is one of the most humble people I've ever met. I love your mom. Right. But she's Superwoman. She's 57 now, 58.
She was born in 57, so that would make her 60. Yeah, 64, 63.
Happy birthday, Jenny.
Happy birthday, Madre. Yeah, her birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah, so she's 63.
63.
She's 3 years older than me. And she's incredibly fit, right? But when
she's
you're
turning 64.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that's just an example of you, and she never brags about it, but she's here every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
She has trained more days at NBS Fitness than probably I have, if I'm like adding it up.
Yeah, she's been all over the newspaper and the media about her fitness gains. And to look at her, you would think, you know, she's one of those kind of people that scare you because she's incredibly strong and very fit, but she's wiry. Yeah. She's that wiry kind of strong, you know?
She doesn't look like menacing in any way. Like, you won't look at her and go like, man, that's probably one of the fittest women in America.
Yeah.
Or definitely one of the fittest 60-year-old women in Memphis, you know, but the reality is she is. Yeah,
she should be the example of, you know, I've heard women give pushback. Oh, I don't want to get all muscled up and get bulky, or I don't want to gain weight. And I'm like, well, if you could look like your mom, would you care what you weighed?
Yeah.
All right. I don't quite get that mentality, but I know that there's an expectation society places on women that it doesn't for us, David. And we, they have these ideals when a physically fit, strong, confident woman to most men is really appealing, right?
100%. Unless those men themselves are physically apathetic, and then it can be intimidating.
It's intimidating. Yeah. So I really enjoyed the environment. I've come to consider this kind of like a home.
Yeah.
It's a real family atmosphere. It was definitely not what I expected.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that, but it doesn't take long if you just come in and go it. And it's great to have a cheering team behind you because they will keep you motivated and coming in.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
It's just like having a guide or team behind you and whatever your pursuits are helps. Like it's nice to have someone to guide you. It's nice to have someone to keep you accountable. And it's nice to have someone give you recognition to go, man, you're doing a good job. Like high five. Congrats. Like I'm proud of you.
Yes.
To have someone tell you that they're proud of you doesn't happen to most adults.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard about this or not, but I gave Brandon permission to get all over me, just to get all up in my biscuits if I wasn't doing something right. And he's exercised that a couple of times. And I got to tell you, he did it at the right time in the right way. He did get all over me twice. And you know what? He got me through that sticking point. I was at kind of a point of failure doing something. And he actually said, go over there and pick that bar up and put it up.
Yeah.
Right. And he was all in me.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do this. Don't tell me you're not leaving until you go over there. Just go over there and do it.
Yeah.
If you got to walk around 2 more times, go walk around, but go over and pick that bar up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And it worked. He got me right through it.
Very cool.
Which I will, I did not expect the mental challenge this was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more daunting than you might think. It's not just about your muscles or your strength. It's about what's going on in that head of yours. Especially for me, I've noticed that if I approach something, Brandon's got me challenged out or something for that day, and I kind of approach it like, wow, that's a lot more weight than I've ever done before. If I allow myself to think that, it's going to beat me.
Yeah.
This is where Bruce, one of the other members, who's about my age, I'm guessing, came over and said, just Larry, you've picked this weight up before. It's light. You can handle it. Just do it. It has nothing to do with our age. Just go over there and pick the damn bar up.
Yeah.
And so that's the mentality I come in with every day, right? Brandon's not going to let me get hurt. So I have to get that. I have to take charge of what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Because that's the voice I listen to. And if I tell my brain to tell my body to do something, ultimately it will. Because I still get picked on for my day one goal when you said, what's your goal? I said a 300-pound bench press.
Yeah.
And everybody I told that to was kind of laughing. And now I get it. You were professionally snickering at me, and I know that, right? Now looking back, I would have done the same thing. Here's an old fat guy walking into my bar who thinks that he's going to go back to college and pick up 300 pounds in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, I had a lot to learn. Right?
It wasn't the goal. That was the timeline.
It was the timeline. Yeah. I put it into months, and it's going to take 2 years, but in a couple of months it'll be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll hit that.
Yeah. It wasn't like necessarily that you had the goal. It was more just like, well, if you're currently not training, going to a 300-pound bench press in 6 months may take longer than 6 months.
Yeah. So I realized how naive I was, right, and how what it takes to really get there. But I'll it's coming up in a couple of months. I should be there mid to late summer.
That's awesome, man. So let me ask you this. So we kind of talked about some of the physical changes that you had. In kind of your health biomarkers, but also your performance. Mm-hmm. What kind of how have these improvements impacted areas of your life outside of the gym?
My posture's better. I sit straight at work at the desk. And for anybody listening that's my age, I don't have to get up using my hands anymore. I can actually stand up like you stand up, right, in your 30s. I can get off the floor without using my hands. I can Yard work is not a challenge anymore. I don't get out of breath when I'm going up the steps anymore. It's increased the quality of my ordinary life tremendously, right? I see it. My appetite has increased. I don't worry about that so much anymore because I know where it's going, and I also know what I'm eating. So I don't know. There's probably a list of 100 things, David, that I have seen improve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the fitness industry has done a relatively bad job of like promoting what the real impacts of fitness are. Instead, it is more just visual in nature. It's you're going to look better, and it's like, I mean, that's a great secondary kind of benefit, but the real benefit is that you get to live a more fulfilling life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the fit version of you is the best version of you, and the best version of you is going to be the best life that you're going to possibly live. And
yeah. I want to pick my granddaughter up when I finally get to see her and not hurt.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pick that up, pick her up and feel good. So it's how we move, right? I could go back to doing things that I used to do. I now feel strong enough to go back and ride.
Yeah.
Right. I've had 2 bikes sitting in the garage that I haven't been able to ride. And I stopped riding because I felt weak. Right. Because it does take a certain amount of strength to throw a motorcycle around, especially when you have somebody on the back. Your dad's a biker.
Yep.
And you have to be competent. Well, now I feel competent to get back in the saddle. And I wanted to feel strong because Stephanie loves to ride. And I don't want to endanger her any more than getting on a motorcycle already does.
Right.
Right. So it's changed. Mentally, my confidence, what I do for a living, I've always been confident in. I've put in my 10,000 hours. I know what I'm doing at work. But just my overall confidence has gone off the chart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I think if you don't experience it, it's maybe hard to put that in words where someone else can kind of intake it and process it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel like I'll never have my 30-year-old body back, but it's the closest you can come.
Yeah. Do you feel younger?
I feel 20 years younger. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? 2 years, you gain 20.
2 to gain 20?
Yeah.
That's excellent.
That's
right.
That's a
right.
good return right there.
And let me, I was finishing up one day, and there was a guy in here, and I now know his name, and we talk. I've met his wife, and he's a pretty cool guy. And we're talking one day, and he looks at me and he said, "If I could just get to the point where you are."
You're like, what?
And I'm like, what? I thought he was talking to somebody behind me, and he said, "Larry, I've been watching." He goes, "I'm rehabbing from an injury, and I've got some issues. And if I could just get to where you are now." And I thought, dude, you don't want to be where I am. You want to be where everybody else is, right? So I went home and told Stephanie, my wife, that I had been used as an example.
Yeah.
Right. I never expected that.
Yeah.
Right.
How'd that feel?
Oh, it feels great.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not coming from an ego place much, although I do have a ginormous ego. I do. But it was coming from, you have to understand, I've had 2 heart attacks, a quadruple bypass, a cardiac stent, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was at one time taking 32 drugs. And like when I won the Male Athlete of the Year award here, you totally caught me off guard because my name and athlete have never been in the same sentence unless it was saying Larry Tolbert is not an athlete. So that is, it comes from a place of being recognized for hard work, and everybody appreciates that, regardless of what it is.
It's not. It's recognition.
Yeah.
It's not ego stroking. It's being recognized for the hard work that you put in.
Yeah. And if I could give anybody another piece of advice, it would be to leave your ego in the car.
Yeah.
Right. Just leave it in the car. You can pick it up and put it back on when you get there. But in here, let your trainer train. Do what they tell you if you choose to use a trainer, which I would highly recommend everybody have a trainer. or at least a class with a trainer.
Yeah.
Right. That was the best thing I ever did, was take your advice and get a trainer. And then I would encourage them to learn themselves, be an expert on yourself, know what diabetes is, know what type you have, know how your body responds to either the excess or the absence of insulin, know how that you can reverse it, know how your heart works, wear a whoop, wear some monitor, track what you eat, become an expert on you, become an expert on communicating how you feel and how you're performing to your trainer.
Yeah.
So that they can make the tweaks necessary to get you there, and understand that I've learned there's basically 3 types of lifters. There's beginners, intermediates, and genetically gifted. the Lee Haneys, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, those guys.
Yeah.
I'm not that, right? And neither is most anybody else. So it's pretty much in the intermediates, and all you are doing is every day you come in, you have a set of an intermediate problem, and you're working to overcome that sticking point, only for the privilege of working up the line to get to the next intermediate problem.
Yeah, the next sticking point.
The next sticking point. That took me 2.5 years to come to that epiphany, but it helps me.
Yeah, I call it the give a lifter a cookie effect.
Yeah,
I was like, there's no end. Like sometimes people are like, well, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, and I'll stop and I'll be good. And I'm like, that's not the way it works. This is forever.
Yes,
It's just a forever process of taking care of yourself and pursuing and finding new goals and exploring your physical fitness as an expression of like your humanity. And there's never like I did there, I'm done, and then I stop.
Yeah. Well, I was scared when I set my goals. Stephanie asked me one night, so if you met all your goals, what next?
New goals.
And I was kind of stumbling around, and she made me really think, like, what if I hit all my goals? Because I'm not going to do it today, but eventually. And then it dawned on me, well, you can always add another plate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You just keep adding plates. There was a lady who is 78, and she just set a squat record at 350.5 pounds.
Dang.
She's 78.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I want to be her.
That's amazing.
So there's my goal. 78 years old, 350 pound squat.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So my next question was like, what advice you would give to someone kind of in your situation who may be struggling? You kind of gave some advice already, but is there anything else you would say to someone who's in their maybe 50s up to like their 70s, who's kind of felt some of the effects of physical decline, has recognized it, but hasn't taken any action yet?
Yes. Don't feel intimidated. Look at the people that are ahead of you in their physicality and go, if they can do it, I can do it. Learn from them, right? So check being intimidated in your car. Leave it in there with your ego. It's a good place to do it. Next, realize that this is a long-term pull. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Right? It's a long-term thing. Long-term solutions require long-term commitments. And one of those commitments is you can do this relatively inexpensively, right? Gym memberships they're not the most expensive thing in the world.
Yeah. You can invest $10 a month if you want.
Yeah. And you provide an overwhelming amount of resources for $10 a month, right? That might be great if you are capable and you have the discipline to open a book or design your own plan, and you can come in and run your own thing. That requires an awful lot of discipline. For people my age, we have the discipline to do whatever we want. We don't have the time.
Yeah.
Right? So realize that you must commit financial resources to this. It has been not just a mental, physical challenge for me to defeat one of the world's worst diseases. It's been kind of expensive. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned my team, right?
Yeah.
That team is not cheap, but dying early is cheap. Funerals are expensive. So I had to realize that in order to fight this, I had to be really serious. Now, not everybody needs, I can't cook, so I have to eat a certain amount of protein, which I wasn't doing, blah, blah, blah. But whatever your resources are, you can afford physical health.
Yeah.
You can. Next, stay away from motivational speak unless it's one that you create yourself. And remind yourself, as Angie Forey said, Larry, I can't motivate you, but I can remind you of the commitment you made. So I'm going to go right back to that, right? Remind yourself that you made a commitment. If you don't hit something, just go back the next day. If you don't hit it the next day, go back the third day. Because if you go back the fourth day, you'll hit it.
Yeah.
Right? And so next, reach out for help. David, I've asked you 100 questions, right? I asked Brandon, he's probably sick of my questions. I read stuff at night, I come back and I ask him questions. So good trainers and good staff expect your questions.
And we want them.
You do, yeah.
Like our passion is helping people. I want you to ask me.
Yeah, so participate in your own exercise program. Be an active participant, give good feedback, ask a lot of questions. You will get help. And then tell your spouse and your children, if they live at home, what you are doing. David, in 1988, I lost 100 pounds. My friends were my own worst enemies.
100%.
Because they were always trying to give me a donut.
Yeah.
That proverbial donut. Larry's fat. He loves donuts. The only way we're going to get him to run is run for the donut. So they can demotivate you because they are used to the old you, and they kind of want that mode at home. So you must tell your spouse, I'm doing this for me, and realize that's really who you're doing it for, is you. And you can either get on the train or you can watch it go by, but I'm going to go do this for me.
Yeah.
Remember I told you it's on my calendar. It's sacred time. When I lost all that weight, I couldn't believe how people weren't really supportive of that weight loss journey.
Yeah. I think part of that goes to the fact that the circle of influence you were in before, that's not what they're about.
Right.
That's counterintuitive to what that circle is about.
It's the crab pot theory, right? So just get rid of your old crab pot and exchange it for a new crab pot of people that will support your physical journey. And then also realize my wife was an active runner most of her adult life, right? So various things caused her to stop running. But when she saw that I was serious about this and started seeing some initial change, she'd always said, I'd like to get back into it. Well, when I did, she followed.
Yeah.
And you see her over here 3 to 4 times a week.
100%. Yeah.
Yep. And she's made some great gains. So I was forced to make a hard decision. And that decision was I can hang around people that will support this or won't, but the decision is mine.
Yeah.
And so if I have to cut that voice out, I'm going to do that because Larry needs positive reinforcement, not negative. He can create his own negative if he's not, right? So that was a difficult decision.
Yeah.
But it's one that I'd never regret. I've never looked backwards and said that was a bad thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Last and final question. What's the best financial analogy you can give to with fitness? Like, what's your financial and fitness analogy that you like to use?
Commit for the long term. That's the only way you will get lasting results. If you want to be wealthy, start early. Recognize that you must take risk. If you want to be healthy, start early, stay committed, stay in your program, and you'll be very healthy for a long life. So it's commitment.
Awesome. All right, Larry, thank you for being on.
Thank you, brother.
And we're going to share this out, and hopefully it'll inspire some other people.
Yeah, don't forget to throw a shout out over here for our able-bodied assistant.
Big shout out to Allison for helping produce
Thank you,
the
Allison.
NBS Fitness Radio.
And your role here is?
I run the recovery room, and I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach.
And you push all the little buttons on the control panel.
Yeah.
Yes. And she nods her head when we say smart things.
Bingo. She produces the podcast and makes it sound nice.
Yes. David, you're awesome. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.